Hi folks, welcome back to Three Burrow Farm. For those of you who are new here, my name is Amy and I live in central Victoria, Australia with my family of 5, and we live on an off-grid property on 42 acres, and we try to grow as much food as we can. And today, while I harvest some food in my garden, I wanted to talk about what you can plant in cool regions of Australia in March. Well, friends, it seems that every time I'm turning on the camera at the moment, I'm harvesting tomatoes, but it is tomato season here on our property and there are a lot of tomatoes to pick. So as we creep into colder months, the list of items that we can sow becomes fewer. So what I am planting as seed at the moment will be broad beans and brassicas and things that enjoy the cold season. So I have started some broad bean seeds inside in my house, and I have 2 different types that I have started already and they're starting to sprout now. I shall pop the variety of the broad beans that I'm growing on the screen, and anything else that I talk about I shall pop on the screen while I'm talking about them. So getting broad beans in now is ideal, but of course sometimes we don't have the room to put them in just yet. And that is why I'm starting them off in my little seedling trays, and I'm going to plant them out hopefully at the end of this month or next month. So brassicas, we can plant more brassicas, but the one brassica we can't plant anymore, or that really struggles because it needs that heat and that light to really get a good start, are Brussels sprouts. So if you haven't raised any Brussels sprout seeds yet, then I would suggest going to a nursery and getting some seedlings instead. Of course, you could try and boost your seeds and start them this month by putting a heat mat underneath or putting some grow lights above as well. But the Brussels sprouts really need a longer amount of time to get going. So in February, I planted 2 sets of Brussels sprout seeds into my seed raising trays, and the first ones didn't work. Now I have seed that is very old, and the problem with getting your seed from some suppliers who give you, hundreds of seeds is that you might not get through all of them in time. And I'm a big believer that the best before date on a seed packet, doesn't really apply, but it appears that my seeds that had a best before 2019 are just not germinating as well as if they were new. So my next batch that I tried of the Brussels sprouts, they succeeded. I planted them a little bit later than I would have liked to in February, but they're growing and we'll see what happens. But I have also just gone to one of my local nurseries and gotten some Brussels sprout seedlings as well. So I'm going to do a bit of an experiment and see what happens, but I'm definitely going to be planting these out later this month. I have a row that I am preparing slowly as I harvest the potatoes. I've mentioned this before, but I've got a big long row of potatoes and I really need to harvest them. I've slowly been harvesting them over the last few weeks, and I'm going to do a big harvest soon. I know I mentioned that I was going to do a harvest the other week, but I started harvesting and I found a bit of an ant's nest in one of the patches, and I got bitten a few times. My fingers swelled up quite badly too. And then, of course, the weather got hotter and life got away. So I've got a couple of days off and I'm definitely going to be harvesting the rest, especially in the evening right now. It's very peaceful and the sun is slowly going down, even though, it is still in the 30s at the moment. Not right now, but you know, during the day it gets quite hot. Okay, so let's move on to other brassicas, and we can sow broccoli, cabbage and cauliflower, and of course kale as well. I've got quite a lot of seedlings that I planted last month, so I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far, but I will be planting another batch this month, probably towards the middle of the month, just to give a bit of a break in between, because as I said before, some of my seed was old and it didn't work, so I did a second lot. I need to move somewhere else so I can harvest more tomatoes. All right, I am surrounded by cherry tomatoes here. So as I said, I've planted lots of kale seed into my seed raising trays, and Luna's coming to say hello. Hi. Hello, come say hello to the people. I know everybody loves the doggies, hey? We have 2 Jack Russells and we have 3 cats. And the cats are sitting at the door looking at me, begging me to let them out, but they only get let out supervised because of snakes and birds and all sorts. We do have a farm cat though, and he is not very impressed with being inside, so he is out here somewhere, and he's pretty good. I've never seen him with a bird. I've seen him playing around with snakes sometimes though, but knock on wood, he hasn't been injured or hasn't injured anything yet. Anyway, I'm getting off track, as I do when I'm in the garden, and other things distract me. Hey Jackie. Oh, one more. Say hello. Say hello to the people. Yeah. Jackie is, both our dogs are the sweetest, but Jackie has come to loving me. I don't want you to give me kisses. And she begs for me to sit down. I'm not one for sitting down until I've done everything I need to do for the day. And she'll come into the kitchen and sit on my feet, telling me, it's time, sit down, Mum. All right, that's enough about the dogs. Let's move on. So, coriander. Coriander is something I love to grow in the colder season because it doesn't bolt. And yeah, you can just eat it for months and months after it's started. So yeah, you can start your coriander now. If you're like me and let things go to seed, you'll probably, my dogs are now wrestling, sorry about that noise. So you will probably find that there are seedlings coming up underneath your plants. So yeah, let things go to seed and see what happens. But I always end up with carpets of coriander in about late March to April. It's been very dry though, even though we've been watering from our dripper lines, and I have been hand watering as well. It's been really, really dry, and I haven't seen any seedlings yet. But I am about to film a garden tour, so while I'm fossicking around showing you my garden, I might come across some coriander seedlings. You never know. So I am focusing on the root vegetables as well. And while leeks aren't really root vegetables, I'm going to classify them in this section. So I am planting some onions, leek, and I have also planted some spring onions as well. So I will put a list again of the ones that I've planted last month and the ones that I will be planting this month. So a mixture, but you can definitely plant all of them in March. Okay, so I missed a few root vegetables. You can plant parsnips and radishes. Now, I'm not going to be planting any radishes. We sort of reserve that for springtime, or winter into spring, and then a little bit in summer. For those fresh salads there. We're more thinking of warm salads now, and yeah, we sort of have had our fill of radishes at the moment. So I'm not planting any of those, but I will be planting some parsnip seed. I've just got to make room in my garden. So parsnips are like carrots. They don't like to be transplanted. They don't like their roots to be disturbed. So you'll need to sow those direct into your bed. So I highly recommend to direct sow your parsnip seed. I'm not getting many tomatoes picked here. And you can also plant swedes and turnips. I have already planted some turnip seed direct into the garden. I'm not sure what the dogs are doing right now, but they are making some noises. You can also get planting on some lettuces. Again, I'm hoping that some of these lettuces that I have here, they're all dropping their seeds, so much seed, and I am hoping that I will get a carpet of lettuces that I can take out and move and transplant into other parts of my garden. But I'm hoping to get some self-sown lettuce happening. I haven't planted any seeds in my seedling trays just because I know that this might happen out here. And there are a few lettuces around that were doing okay in the garden, but they're now getting bitter and going to seed. So yeah, we haven't been eating lettuce for a few weeks now. Parsley. So if you're lucky enough again to have lots of parsleys that have gone to seed over the summer, you will again start to see parsleys coming up. I have a few parsley plants coming up underneath my pumpkin vines, which is very exciting, and they're quite big. I won't be deliberately planting parsley. I don't believe I have any parsley seed left in my seed box, but if I'm not seeing a lot of them, I will start planting some of them this month in my seed raising trays, and then I will transplant them out here eventually. So I have already planted some turnip seeds in the garden. I don't currently have any swede seeds, but I have got some coming to me in the post. So I'm going to be planting more turnips and more swede, or I haven't planted any swede yet, so I will be planting swede. Okay, peas. I have started to sow peas already, and I did them with the broad beans, and they're all coming up, which is nice. And I've done them again in trays inside, just because I don't have the space yet out here. Can you hear them? I just found a cockatoo feather. The cockatoos have been devouring my sunflowers. And with this row here that I've got next to me where the pumpkins are, once I've harvested all of these, I will be putting my hoops in and putting netting on top, because they will just come down and destroy anything I try to plant in this garden for sure. So I've got lots of these saucing tomatoes. They're quite smaller than I thought. I thought they were going to be like aroma or the Amish paste ones. They're beautiful inside. One of the dogs is making funny noises. They're beautiful inside, but they're very small. But good things come in small packages, just like myself. So last month when I did this What to Sow Now video, I had a few people ask me what flowers to sow at this time. And one thing that I would sow if I didn't already have so much seed falling down from the plants and some seedlings already sort of trying to come up in the dry soil is calendula. So calendula is something that you can sow now. It's kind of something that comes up in my garden at all times of the year, and I had some coming up in late January and they're just starting to flower now. So I've pretty much had calendula flowers coming up throughout all of summer, and some have died. I've just spotted the most beautiful pumpkin, and some have died back. Some of the calendula plants have died back while others are starting to flower. So I've sort of had this never-ending harvest of calendula flowers, which has been fantastic. You can start to sow billy buttons and bergamot as well. You can also start planting some echinacea and cornflowers, of course, but I haven't actually personally sown them at this time of year, but I do know that they are on my list of things that you can sow at this time. Of course, the cornflowers should be fine because if you plant them now, they will flower in spring, but the echinacea, that kind of goes dormant for me in wintertime, so I'm quite interested to, maybe I'll experiment with that and see how they go. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm just not sure. But it is on one of the lists that I have of what you can sow at this time. Some other flowers you can sow at this time are everlasting daisies. Check out these tigerilla tomatoes. And you can also start false Queen Anne's lace or Queen Anne's lace. So you can start those along with hollyhocks and lupins as well. You can also start your poppies. Now, I haven't for quite a few years now, maybe 5 years. I have not planted any poppies in my garden. The seed has just come up from year after year after year, and I get quite a lot of poppies coming up, but this month I think I will start some poppies because there are a few varieties that didn't come back this year. So I'm interested to get those back into my garden. Sweet peas. Sweet peas are fantastic to start now because they will flower in spring for you and be very delightful and smell just delicious. I'm trying to take these dry leaves off. Look how dry these tomato leaves are getting, and I'm really behind with pruning them off. I think I've just given up now at this point. There's just enough time to harvest and preserve everything. And the last flowers that I have to suggest to you to plant now would be tansy and viola as well. So you can definitely start all of these things by seed in cool regions of Australia. And I wish you well with your seed raising. I hope you have much more success than I did at the start last month. I definitely feel like I'm a little bit behind, but I think, sometimes we can put pressure on ourselves as gardeners and we can just keep trying the best we can. I think I've got something crawling in my overalls. I am just so very glad that you enjoy these videos that I put out each month, and I'm interested in showing you more and more about the varieties of each of the types of vegetables that I will be planting, and as that changes too, because I'm definitely going to be adding some different vegetables to my list. And each year I'll try something new in each sort of variety. Like I have with the tomatoes this year, I've been really impressed with some of the varieties, and they have brought so much colour to our palette as well when we've cut them up. It's just really fun to grow all the heirloom veggies. And now I must go and get these chickens in. But can you see all of those cockatoos? So I don't know if you can see them. One of the dogs is destroying that cockatoo feather that I found. But look at all those cockatoos up on the chicken coop. There are so many of them just waiting for me to leave my veggie garden so they can come in and get the sunflowers. And look at this beauty. So lovely. Smells so good. We've got some glass here as well. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will see you next time, friends. Enjoy sowing your seeds, and hopefully we get some cooler days soon. See you later.